And the addition of sadism brings the triad to the tetrad. Self-interest is key when you're talking about the dark tetrad and the sadistic desires of the psychopath, the person that you're dealing with. Now, the comment, the point of my commentary this morning, number one, let me welcome all of my sleep deprived counterparts. Yes, I too am occasionally plagued with bouts of insomnia, and I seem to be in the middle of one of those episodes as we speak. So rather than toss and turn, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a video. So here I am. So welcome. All right. So Kohberger, yes, we're leaving the Murdoch maniacal monster behind, and we're gonna get back into Kohberger, and I have quite a few videos already on this guy in the beginning. I've made the case, I think the guy done the little dog in. I think perhaps he was escalating or practicing, and here we are now. Yet more manipulation, what I believe. Again, this is speculation. I am not diagnosing anyone. That would be impossible feat to manage if you've not even done a clinical interview. So you're wrong. It's not diagnosing. Okay? All right. So Bryan Kohberger, 28 years old, he is the suspect who has been charged with the deaths of Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonsalves in Idaho. These were the four college students that were murdered in their home after a night out, doing normal things that young college people do. They were in different areas. They were not all together as a group over the course of the night. And at the end of the night, starting at about 2 a.m., they all came back together. They were in their home. And there were two other college students there, Dylan and Bethany, and they are identified as survivors. The crime scene was brutal. It was a violent and chaotic murder scene. I think that's pretty well emerged at this point. Originally, the messaging that we were getting was quite different. The medical examiner had come out and said that they all died in their beds, many of them completely unaware of what had taken place, what had happened to them. And it gave this, what should I call it? It gave this kind of suggestion that there was this environment that was a bit Hollywood set of the perfect serial killer working with special forces, precision, stealth, that he, slipped in under cover of darkness silently and without much indication, ended their lives, and then just as quietly slipped back out into the darkness. No one aware or even alerted to something unusual that may be happening. And then this ghost of an assassin disappears into the night air, right? That was the original presentation by the talking heads. And I'm talking about the locals that were the officials that were commenting. This guy came from an area where he had connections to a person who was close to BTK, interviewing BTK, dare I say it, perhaps even formed some sort of perhaps codependent friendship with BTK. I hesitate to say that a little bit, but let's face it, if you're an author and you are writing a book on a person, you're interviewing them and getting to know all the intimate details of their life, starting from childhood forward, not just the final scene of the maniacal monster. Sometimes authors can get sucked into the madness and form an alliance with this killer that they're investigating and learning about. They begin to see the human side of the killer, and it can sometimes become uncomfortable for them on it, a bit like countertransference, that they're recognizing on surface that yes, this is a desperately mentally ill person that is capable of doing atrocities that really, for all intent purposes, no one else during this period of time is capable of doing. And yet they get in and they begin to look at photographs of their childhood, hearing funny stories about them. And then they take a softer side. They begin to look at them in a way of, oh, he's not a maniacal monster. He's just misunderstood. And it could be odd, it could be strange. But here's the deal when you're talking about sociopathy, antisocial personality disorder. You must remember the reason these people are able to basically feed off of the souls of mere mortal humans is their ability for manipulation. They develop, on some level, they develop some manner of relating to others. Not that they are making a connection with others, but they're presenting themselves in a way that may be attractive or funny or appearing to be an authority. And they use some kind of little shtick to get the trust of others, to lure them into their web so they can, work their magic, or what they think is their magic. So that brings us to today's episode on Bryan Kohberger, PhD student extraordinaire. What did that professor say? He's the most brilliant student we've ever had or talked to. And now we find out what. He goes to his new university, starts his PhD program. This guy's on the hunt before day one of class. So we're going to go with this whole narcissism. Everybody loves narcissism. I think it's overrated, but anyway, if we're going to go with that idea of narcissistic supply, and this guy is a true narcissist, and definitely there's some flavor there. Why then is he not full of himself and walking around like a peacock, preparing for his first day of class, right? Why is it what we know now? Why is it that he's not at the university running about, scurrying about like a busy little bee, trying to form alliances with professors and get on research groups? And he bypassed all that. In fact, we know now, if we are to believe the stories, that he was a problem from day one. He's already hunting before he ever goes into the school and starts his program. Once he gets there and he begins his program, he's a problem for the professors. He's being unprofessional. And it's so blatant that it takes mere weeks for there to be a formal meeting saying, listen here, big guy, what you doing? It's not working. you got some problems. You've got there are certain ways, decorum, that we relate to one another as professionals, and you're failing in that department. Oh, by the way, we also notice that there's a bit of misogyny in the way you're conducting yourself as you're working with students. You seem to be a little unfair when you're working with the female students as opposed to the male students. You also seem to be a little bit demeaning towards the female students. You gotta straighten up, big guy. Come on, let's tighten up, Bryan. Because what you doing right now, you've been here 1 month. You are not going to last, buddy. So let's put a plan together. Let's put a plan. Let's get you on the straight and narrow, and let's get you graduated with that, coveted PhD, right? I mean, it happened fast if you're to believe the letter. Now, I'm going to tell you, and I did a video on it, I'm not sure that this is authentic. I could be completely wrong about that. It could have been leaked. It could be the real deal. We won't know until and if there's a trial. But I'm a bit skeptical that a professor, that a college would take the chance of leaking something like that, because of the whole privacy and that kind of thing. But regardless, so no, he's not this brilliant student. Oh, let me write you a letter and get you help you get into a PhD program. That's not what we're getting. Two different things here. We're getting Pennsylvania Kohberger. Should I say Quaker Kohberger? No, I probably shouldn't say that. We're getting Pennsylvania Kohberger, and then we're getting Washington State Kohberger. And they don't even seem to have a passing resemblance to one another in terms of personality and work ethic. So that's curious. And I'm not saying I understand it or know where it comes from. I'm just saying it's clearly there. We also got quite a different story between, the stealthy special forces serial killer story initially. And now what's emerged is, pardon my French, it was a mess. It was a SHIT show, right? It was violent and chaotic and horrible. It was horrible. So now we have a new Kohberger. Yes, we do. It's a newer, improved model of Kohberger. This would be Kohberger on religion. If you're to believe Radar Online, it would seem that Mr. Kohberger, accused killer, has found God. That's right. He has found God. He meets with a pastor every Sunday. He doesn't miss the opportunity to meet with his pastor. So the former PhD student turned murder suspect keeps to himself in jail. And he has also found comfort in some one-on-one time with a religious leader. Okay, well, I'm going to take issue with that word, comfort. Perhaps that is the journalist using a word based on their own experience, that they themselves find comfort in religion, and they're projecting that onto the accused super killer, Bryan Kohberger. Because I'm not sure he's doing this for comfort as much as perhaps his attorney, the extraordinary Ann Taylor, has said, oh, by the way, Bryan, we need to try to rehabilitate your image a little bit. Let's make some use of the time that we have before trial. If you're going to go to trial, we need to humanize you, young Kohberger. It's going to be hard to do after that whole visual snow postings and Papa Roger, and it's going to be a little hard to do, but nevertheless. So he has found comfort in meeting with a religious leader on a regular basis every Sunday. So I'm going to assume it's Christian. So this information is coming from inmates who have spilled what it is like to share their space with a man accused of the horrific quadruple slayings. Kohberger will leave his cell around 7 p.m. on Sundays to attend a private religious service in the jail library. He is escorted by 2 jail guards to meet with the pastor, who then leads him in prayer. And I've kind of got this image in my head, dead man walking. I don't know why that popped in my head, but it is what it is. So allegedly, he is escorted by these 2 jail guards to go meet with the pastor. He will sit down with the pastor to receive private mass. It's just the 2 of them. And the inmate says he has no idea what they talk about. In addition to taking comfort from regular contact with a religious leader, Kohberger gets a great deal of comfort, indeed is experiencing obsession with watching one thing on television. Any guess? What do you think he's watching on television? Is it a reality TV show? Perhaps he has access to the internet and he is watching an allegedly innocent episode or listening to an allegedly innocent podcast episode. No, his favorite show is anything about Bryan Kohberger. That's all he cares about. It's all he wants to watch is just coverage of him. One inmate spilled that Kohberger follows all coverage of this case. He watches himself all the time. It's really bizarre. And that is information coming from an inmate. The inmate said of accused murderer, yeah, man, Kohberger always has the same expression. No, wait a minute. The same non-expression. I don't know. It's kind of freaky, man. He just looks straight ahead. I ain't never even seen his eyebrows move. His eyebrow. I wish I had my camera on this morning so I could do my eyebrow lift, like one eyebrow, right? Like skepticism. His eyebrows don't move. His mouth, it doesn't move. That dude never says nothing. Okay. I know. I'm going to catch hate. People are going to say, oh my goodness, Jules, it is far too inappropriate for you to be giggling and cackling with delight. I know. I get it. I'm delusional. I'm in delirium from lack of sleep. So forgive me. All right. Okay. So the dude's eyebrows don't move. His mouth doesn't move. He never says anything. Kohberger sits alone in a private cell and is kept away from other inmates at the county jail. He follows a strict vegan diet, which is being provided by the facility. One official at the jail said that there had been 0 incidents involving Kohberger since his arrival, adding, this accused quadruple murderer is quite well behaved. Listen, gird your loins for what I am about to say to you. Remain calm. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it. Now slowly exhale. Okay, prepare yourself for what I'm about to say. Yes, this is being reported. I quote, fellow inmates are in awe of him. Can I just say gross? Can I just say that is just an obscene statement, truly. The inmate said, and I quote, we would always talk about the fact that he was in the same jail with us. Nobody liked the guy. I could tell you that. Like, there's a lot of hatred, but we were in awe of him. Kind of like me and, Matthew McConaughey. No, not that bad. Okay. Nothing like this really happens around Moscow. It has shocked a lot of people. So they're in awe of him. They're obsessed with him. They hate him. And they hope that he is sentenced to death. Crazy, right? It's crazy. Harrison Papillon says, I hope he gets the death penalty. I would be shocked if he didn't. All right. So Kohberger has been charged with 4 counts of murder, 1 count of felony burglary. And the affidavit has revealed DNA found on a knife sheath, matching the one found in his white Elantra. Cell phone records put him at the location, including his cell device actually being used through their Wi-Fi, through the girls' Wi-Fi. It is important for me to note that Bryan Kohberger has denied these accusations, and he is committed, it would seem, to going to trial, like any good little narcissist would. All right. Now then, I don't know. I know that there's been a great deal of commentary on the search warrants, what was taken and moved into evidence and whatnot. On a sad note, the mother of Xana Kernodle has, relapsed. And so she's struggling after the death of her daughter. I think that it'd be helpful prayer. If you're a believer, a prayer for Kara. So I don't know. I thought this was an interesting development. And I kind of find it, I guess I find it a little uncomfortable that this made news, because it is doing exactly what he is intending it to do. It's manipulative. It has that flavor of manipulation. For example, is Bryan Kohberger a religious person before becoming a maniacal killer? Well, no, he wasn't, apparently. He was busy being a heroin addict. Now, a lot of people, have said, oh, well, he lost all that weight and he got healthy and he became a vegan and look how good he looks, blah, blah, blah. Are you sure that he became healthy, or are we seeing wasting as a result of his drug habit? There are functional alcoholics, and there are people who remain functional for all intent purposes, even while using opiates. Not just using opiates, but to an addiction level, right? That they can maintain for quite a long time before it finally either destroys their liver, or, the addiction process, either intoxication from the drug or withdrawal from the drug, begins to take its toll, So so I don't know where we stand, but the focus of this is that idea of we have Pennsylvania Kohberger, who's the most brilliant most brilliant student, such great potential, according to a letter written for a reference letter to get into a PhD program. And then there is Houston, we have a problem, Washington Kohberger, who is stalking and then is in trouble with his supervisor within a month of starting his program. So is it possible that there was this perfect transition as he graduates college and gets ready to move to a PhD program? His drug use now escalates to a point that now he's not functional. I don't know, but I am quite curious on why we got reports of one Kohberger in Pennsylvania, and it sounds like a completely different person than what we're seeing in Washington. And I will say this: I think some of the interviews that have come out from neighbors that have had passing just conversations with Bryan and whatnot, I do think he was terribly lonely. What's been reported by people that have had brief conversations with him, he seems really socially so clumsy, incapable even of a comfortable reciprocal kind of conversation. And I think he's really lonely. And I think my original hypothesis that he's very likely one of these guys that's kind of living on bulletin boards, that his loneliness, his need for social contact is getting acted out on the internet through these discussion groups, and that he may have gravitated toward these incel communities where he even takes the moniker Papa Rogers. And if you think of Elliot Rogers, Elliot was, he's like the poster boy for the incel, the anger, aggression, misogynistic hate towards females and whatnot, or towards, socially competent males. And it's interesting that he would take the name Papa Rogers, almost like, oh no, you think Elliot is your poster boy? I'm the guy that showed him how to do it, kind of deal. I'm the best of all the incels. I'm the daddy of incel. You know how you have the mother of all bombs? No. Kohberger is the daddy of all incels, not the mother of all incels, the daddy of all incels. So, so I think he was lonely. I think he was bitter and angry, but you can't get away from that mask, people. That flat affect, that the bizarre comments of his discussion in the visual snow discussion group. He's a scary guy. And I'm convinced there are people in Pennsylvania that may have disappeared that had some kind of connection to him. I'm convinced of it. So we'll see. I think the cops think there have been others before the Idaho 4. Look, it is so hard to believe. I had this discussion with Jonathan, I can't remember his last name, Jonathan Gilliam, who was an FBI Special Forces guy. It's hard to believe. And this guy's a Special Forces FBI. He understands not using a knife to kill, the amount of physical strength that it would take, the training to control the the panic flight or fight response that you would have in this type of survival situation. And it is not even reasonable to assume that he went into that house and this is the first time that he ever hurt anybody. That is not reasonable. With a knife, and he managed to get into the house, I assume unseen. It's hard to believe because Anna had just gotten her food order. She was on TikTok. Was she in the living room eating it on TikTok, or was she in the bedroom? So it's kind of, that is hard, but it looks like the first sound, the first awareness that somebody was in the house that wasn't supposed to be there was Kaylee. And she's heard, she says, someone's here. She must have said it loud. She must have been in a panic for Dylan to hear it on the second floor. So he somehow got up to the third floor without alerting people that were awake on the second floor. So there had to have been some level of stealth, right? But then it went off the rails, I think. I think he may have gotten Madison first. And then as he's leaving, that's when maybe Kaylee was going to the bathroom and ran into him or whatever. And she yells out and he gets Kaylee maybe right there at the door. Right. And then he's trying to get out of the house. And I think that Ethan came running. Xana was hiding in the bedroom and Ethan comes running out to see what the hell's going on upstairs. And he has he has this terrible, terrible encounter with Ethan and with Xana. They both had catastrophic there was bruising and multiple cuts and stab marks. It was a brawl. It was different with the girls upstairs, but not these two. So I don't know. It's hard to believe that he pulled this off. It really is. But anyway, so now we have the predictable manipulation of the public. He's found God. So he needs to be forgiven a little bit for, what he's accused of. And he's human, y'all. That's the whole story here. He's human. So if you end up on the jury, you got to remember he's probably a nice guy. And I think that is probably the moral of the story of Bryan Kohberger and his budding relationship with God.